Is Caitlin Clark's reign with the Indiana Fever about to make a triumphant comeback, or are we witnessing the rise of a brand new power duo in Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull that could change the team forever? With Clark sidelined far longer than anyone expected, the Fever's identity has shifted overnight, and while fans hold their breath for her return, Sophie and Lexie have been lighting up the court, stealing headlines, and proving they might just be the heartbeat this team didn't know it needed. Caitlin Clark didn't just walk into the 2025 WNBA season as a player. She entered as the league's biggest star, the face of every highlight reel, and the heartbeat of the Indiana Fever's hopes. But then came the injury update that no one wanted to hear. What was initially brushed off as a minor groin and quad strain quickly became an unpredictable saga, stretching week after week with no guaranteed return date. At first, the timeline seemed optimistic, maybe 2 or 3 games on the bench. But as August rolled in, reality hit harder. Clark was staring down a 1-0 to 1-3 game absence, watching from the sidelines while the season kept moving without her. Fans saw her in warm-ups, smiling, chatting with teammates, even traveling with the squad, but beneath the surface there was frustration. Reports described really frustrating days in her recovery, moments where she'd push in practice only to feel that sharp reminder from her body that she wasn't ready. The Fever's coaching staff made it clear, no rushing back, no risking something that could derail her career. But in the high-stakes world of professional basketball, every game missed isn't just a number on the calendar, it's an opportunity for someone else to step up, to claim space, to become the story. And as Clark's return window kept stretching, that's exactly what started to happen. But that wasn't the whole story. When Caitlin Clark went down, many expected the Indiana Fever to stumble, maybe even spiral. After all, removing your star playmaker mid-season is like taking the engine out of a car. The whole thing risks grinding to a halt. But instead of collapsing, something surprising happened. Sophie Cunningham, who was never billed as a full-time floor general, slid into a leadership role almost overnight. She became the voice in huddles, the first to rally teammates after a missed shot, the one diving for loose balls like the season depended on it. Her energy wasn't just keeping the team alive, it was contagious. Then there was Lexi Hull, the quiet but steady presence who never made a scene yet always seemed to be in the right place at the right time. While Sophie handled the high-voltage plays and fiery emotion, Lexi became the glue sinking critical shots, locking down on defense, and making sure the Fever's rhythm didn't unravel without Clark's floor vision. Together, they formed a balance, Sophie's spark and Lexi's steadiness. And here's where it got interesting. The more games Clark missed, the more this duo found their groove. It wasn't just about filling in, it was about rewriting the team's on-court identity. The fans noticed, the media noticed, and maybe most importantly, their opponents noticed. But what Sophie did next would send her stock skyrocketing far beyond the scoreboard. Sophie Cunningham's transformation this season has been nothing short of wild. Before Caitlin Clark's injury, she was already known as the league's unapologetic enforcer, the player who brought grit, physicality, and a little bit of trash talk to every matchup. But the moment Clark went out, Sophie's role shifted from being the team's spark plug to being one of its primary engines. She started handling the ball more, taking and making shots that used to belong to someone else, and setting the tone on defense with the kind of intensity that makes opponents think twice before driving to the rim. And then came the viral moment. Her ejection earlier this season, initially seen as a blemish, somehow fueled her popularity instead of hurting it. Clips of her fiery exchange with referees made the rounds online, racking up millions of views, and her Instagram following exploded practically overnight. Suddenly, Sophie wasn't just an on-court force, she was a trending topic. Even Caitlin Clark herself couldn't resist throwing a playful jab during a press conference, telling reporters maybe Sophie should focus on basketball, not just her social media numbers, a comment that sparked its own wave of debate. But Sophie didn't slow down. If anything, the attention seemed to make her more fearless. She leaned into her image, the tough competitor who's also not afraid to have fun, showing off behind-the-scenes moments with teammates, sharing jokes, and posting training clips that gave fans an inside look at her grind. The result? She became more than just a player filling in for Clark's absence. She became one of the Fever's most marketable personalities. Still, While Sophie thrived in the spotlight, Lexie Hull was quietly building her own case as the other half of this unlikely takeover. While Sophie Cunningham grabbed the headlines with her fiery play and viral moments, Lexie Hull was making just as big an impact, only she was doing it in her own understated way. Lexie has never been the type to chase the spotlight, but her value to the Fever became impossible to ignore once Caitlin Clark went down. She tightened her defense, becoming a nightmare matchup for opposing guards, and started hitting key shots in moments that could swing a game. What stood out most was her composure. Even when the team faced double-digit deficits, Lexie's expression barely changed. No panic, no hesitation, just focus. That calm confidence bled into her teammates, helping the Fever steady themselves during chaotic stretches. Off the court, she was the quiet leader, checking in on teammates, offering encouragement, and making sure morale stayed high. Then came a deeply personal moment that revealed just how much she'd been carrying. Lexie shared on social media that her beloved dog had passed away, a loss that hit her hard. Fans rallied around her, sending thousands of messages of support. And yet, despite that emotional weight, she showed up for the Fever, game after game, giving everything she had on both ends of the floor. Her resilience didn't go unnoticed by the locker room or by Sophie. In fact, what happened next between the two would turn them into one of the most talked about duos in the league. It didn't take long for fans to realize that Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull weren't just two players doing their best to hold the Fever together, they were becoming a legitimate force on and off the court. Their chemistry was impossible to miss. Whether it was cracking each other up during warm-ups, sharing inside jokes in post-game interviews, or showing up to games in matching outfits that had social media buzzing, the connection was real. On the hardwood, their styles clicked like puzzle pieces. Sophie's aggressive drives and fearless shot-taking created chaos for defenses, while Lexie's precise shooting and lockdown defense punished anyone who tried to overcompensate. They fed off each other's energy when Sophie went on a scoring tear. Lexie would hit a dagger three to keep the run alive. When Lexie made a defensive stop, Sophie was the first one sprinting down the court to finish the play. The media started noticing too. Headlines calling them the best duo you're not talking about began to pop up. Fans flooded the comments with calls for the Fever to keep them as a core pairing even after Caitlin Clark returns. And deep down, everyone knew that this wasn't just about filling a gap, this was about creating a new identity for a team that had long struggled to find one. Still, the big question loomed. When Caitlin Clark finally comes back, would this newfound balance survive, or would everything shift again? That's where the Fever's future gets even more intriguing. The Indiana Fever have been in a strange position all season, waiting for their superstar to return, while watching two of their supporting cast turn into something much bigger. Caitlin Clark is still the franchise face, the player who draws sellout crowds and national television slots. But every game she misses gives Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull more room to grow into leaders in their own right. And that creates a fascinating scenario for when Clark is finally cleared to play. On one hand, her return could supercharge the Fever, blending Clark's playmaking with the momentum Sophie and Lexie have built. On paper, it's a dream three versatile players who can score, defend, and ignite the crowd. But basketball isn't just about talent, it's about rhythm, roles, and chemistry. Right now, the Fever have settled into a groove that works for them. Sophie is thriving as the team's emotional driver. Lexie is the steady hand, keeping the machine running, and the rest of the roster has adjusted to that structure. Bringing Clark back into the mix could elevate everything, or it could disrupt the balance they've found. There's also the bigger picture. If Sophie and Lexie keep playing at this level, the Fever's front office may face tough decisions about rotations, offensive priorities, and even the team's long-term identity. Are they still Clark's team first and foremost? Or has this unexpected chapter shown that they can be something more, a squad with multiple cornerstones, not just one? For now, the only certainty is that Clark's absence has changed the Fever in ways no one saw coming, and whether she returns to reclaim the spotlight or steps into a team that's learned how to win without her, the ripple effects will be felt far beyond this season. But the real answer to whether Caitlin Clark will be back to lead this team or watch Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull keep running the show might just shock everyone. The Indiana Fever's 2025 season was supposed to be the year Caitlin Clark took the next step from rookie sensation to unquestioned franchise leader. Instead, it's turned into a test of resilience for her, for the team, and for the players suddenly thrust into the spotlight. Clark's injury has been a frustrating, drawn-out battle, but it's also opened the door for Sophie Cunningham and Lexi Hull to prove they're more than role players. They've stepped into the void with confidence, chemistry, and an ability to keep the Fever relevant in a league that moves fast and forgets even faster. Fans are now split between two visions: the return of Clark to restore the original plan, or the continuation of this new identity built around a fiery enforcer and a calm, steady sharpshooter. Both possibilities carry intrigue. If Clark comes back healthy and fits seamlessly alongside Sophie and Lexie, the Fever could be a legitimate contender, with three leaders sharing the floor. If the chemistry shifts, though, we might be witnessing the early days of a bigger power struggle for control of the team's direction. Either way, this season has already proven one thing: the Indiana Fever are no longer defined by a single name. They've found depth, heart, and a duo that can hold its own under pressure. And when Clark finally makes her decision to return at full force or to take more time, the entire basketball world will be watching, because the answer could redefine not just the Fever, but the future balance of power in the WNBA.